just now I took before coming here. Now, if you see, I don't know, all of you having the car almost, you are finding everyday fuel prices going by 20 cedis, 30 cedis. As a businessman, can I increase the price every day? My selling price, I can't. So in the end of the day, the businessman is creating a loss. Recently, last 2 months before I went to Burundi, I was going to Uganda in 2030 as a Uganda delegation to there. And I found there is a policy that you cannot increase the price for fuel for certain time. Even the price is increasing worldwide. But here the price is increasing. I don't know what policy about that. Once the moment the price goes high for fuel, your matoke, your kasa, everything increases because you're coming from Garar, example. Every transport, everything is increasing price. So your income is not increasing, but your expense is increasing. So these are the policy making is very important, which impact each and every human. Forget about the big businessman, even the small people who have need to survive. So such policy need to be considered. I don't know if EPRC can play some role in that because Economic Policy Research Center, I think it has to be. So thank you very much. That's what my concern and which I want to say with all of you.
Thank you for your submission, and our directors here actually respond to that. Can I have the hands of the persons who want to respond to, then we go in that order? We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we shall have those first 4 hands, then we get a response. Your name, please, and where are you coming from?
Yes, good morning. My name is Kusinje Rudi. I am the General Manager for Merchandise Uganda.
Sorry. Okay. The audience and they have their Zoom on. Can you please mute it? It's creating a bit of sound.
I am the General Manager for Merchandise Uganda. Merchandise Uganda is a B2B solution, an e-commerce B2B solution for businesses in Uganda to access local markets but also global markets. In this era of young people, we cannot really risk to lose over 500 jobs. And our company has capacity to create over 200 jobs in 1 year because it is a digital platform. You can witness how many jobs we are creating, how many jobs is mobile money creating. My question is that what are the strategies from government and government partners to support our businesses to scale up? Because we have the capacity to create those numbers of jobs, but then, like you've said, that information, the skills, people do not have skills to use digital platforms. The businesses do not have this information on how they can leverage digital platforms. To make sure that we build that business resilient and enable our businesses to adopt technology, to get more money, to create more jobs, and transform this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next person.
Thank you very much. My name is Francis Kabey. I'm a speaker person of the University in Bali. I work for Step Up Youth Initiative. Step Up.
Step Up.
Yes. Initiative. And as an institution, we are the regional coordinating entity of Uganda Youth Coalition USDGs. Now, my question goes to the research team in terms of vulnerability. I noticed that you looked at gender as well as age, but you understand that business in Kampala is not the same as business in Bulambuli. Could be in terms of infrastructure, opportunity. So in terms of policy recommendations, what are those key issues that, in terms of policy, that can benefit people in Kampala as well as handling challenges that are faced?
Is the echo now down? Okay, so our fourth person to give the intervention, then to the last person, then we get back responses from some of the questions that have been raised. Your name, please, and the institution.
My name is Brian Amata, super happy to be here. And listening to the research, I thought I would add perspective. As an entrepreneur, I'm a founder of Tubayo. Tubayo is the leading online travel marketplace for travelers to book rooms and activities with locals. This is a company we started in 2018. So that's before COVID. I really hope the feedback is affecting. Alright, we'll go. So we started in 2018, but launched in 2019. And the idea was to empower as many individuals to do travel business online. And I remember before COVID, we had such a hard time convincing people to, put their business online. And so it was really hard. We ended up creating these products ourselves within the company to make the platform work. But when COVID happened, we saw these entrepreneurs and individuals more willing to join us. And I could give you this context. Before COVID, you could get into an organization like Auto, Uganda, Association of Tour Operators, and you would find for all the years that have been around there about 700 members. That meant those were the 700 entrepreneurs that had information to register, formalize, that had the capacity to set up travel companies. And that was the nature of the companies before COVID. You needed capital for the office, capital to employ a technical team to support the operations, and the cars to do the travel. And then this new wave of travel came around where now we encourage individuals and users to use our platform to simply create a profile. And so you find that a youth or an individual at the Nile that knew his way around the Nile, that guided these tourists for all these years, can now own something by simply creating a profile. And so we saw that in 1 year we got over 1,400 individuals join us to community of travel. And also with the lockdown, we were able to move to their offices. So many of them join us. So the other perspective or context I saw after COVID, we had so many youth and individuals start these travel companies. I think we've seen it all. We've seen a wave of how people were marketing trips now weekly to locals, which wasn't there before. So I believe travel has grown post-COVID, and also the entrepreneurs have gotten much more efficient. All they need to do to run their business is simply a smartphone. They don't have to employ technical, and these platforms are having all these tools integrated that can do the accounting, that can do the marketing, distribution widely. Yeah, so that is my perspective, and I would really be very excited if EPRC really took it up to provide more research on this trend of digital businesses in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your submission. I think you've muted the microphone. And thank you for your submission. I think that was a practical experience of how you've gone through this, the hard times before COVID, and then how you've actually come back on board. And the last question from John, your submission. Then I'll get a few questions online. Then Tony, you can submit, and the team.
Thank you very much, the presenters. My first observation about these enterprises that you are talking about appear to present a sign of informality. So there's a concern that most of the businesses in Uganda are very informal. But again, when you look at these numbers, this would not reflect a sign of informality. And also, when you say that these businesses cannot access support, because when the businesses are informal, then providing them support would be very difficult. Because I know Uganda Development Bank and some of these institutions, some of the institutions are providing the funding. That's what I'm saying. So, but my suggestion would be here that in Uganda we could have a redefinition of what informality means, because I know that in some countries they are trying to help the SMEs by redefining what informality is. For example, if a business has somebody with a mobile number, how does the telecom company manage this? You mean so that could be one of the ways that we could help support these businesses. Maybe if somebody has their mobile number, that's a step towards their formality. But if we say that you're going to define formality in forms of registering with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, it is very expensive and difficult. So that was an observation I'm making. The other thing is to Mr. I think Mr. Kuma, is it Kuma Oxygas? For me, I think that why sometimes government does not approach, why government tend to make policies before consulting business people. I think that the government fears the business people just as much as the business people fear the government. So the government comes up with policies and try to say, here's the policy. So I always wonder why then there is no consultation. Although they always say that we do consult, but always there's a huge gap between what the policies are saying and, I mean, the government needs taxes. Sometimes people are saying reduce the tax. They say they can't reduce. The other thing I wanted to suggest is that this suggestion of the future MP that we need something of a village health, I mean, the village business team, I think is a good idea, which I think should be pushed. So just like we have the village health team. I think earlier I was just telling Madina that if the scientists manage to solve this pandemic in 2 years, the economists have been fighting poverty for the last 20 years. So is it going to be possible really to fight poverty? So I think we need some institutions like the village business teams, or we need a World Economic Organization, just like we have the World Health Organization, so that the economists can speak with one voice in order to solve some of these challenges. Maybe the final point I would make is about these new value chains that government is talking about, especially for the bioeconomy. I think some of these value chains will have to do with, like guys who are doing silkworm in the agro-processing. I think this time economists start looking at these value chains, because I think they are the business of the future that will make money, the pathogen economy. I think there's a huge potential for some of our people to go into this new era with the fourth industrial revolution. But if we don't investigate some of these things early, I think it will bypass us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I think some of the economists here are going to answer why we've not fought poverty up to now, and COVID-19, they are getting solutions. So probably these are two different issues anyway, because poverty is too multidimensional compared to COVID-19. But we shall debate that as we go forward. Tony, we have also a question online which says, did the survey consider the impacts of the stimulus package on business survival, employment, performance? If so, are there any recorded positive impacts? What was the distribution of the receipt of the stimulus package among the MSMEs that were surveyed? So that's one of the questions that's coming online. You can try to respond to that in terms of the stimulus package. Then the other one is asking that, can we consider agriculture in the next survey? So Director Researcher can also give us why agriculture probably might not be considered or be considered for the next survey. So someone's asking online for that kind of interjection. Now back to you, Tony. They're asking about issues around heterogeneity in businesses. For sure that even in Kampala, among small businesses, they are not the same. Then how come for the businesses in the rural areas who are within this same environment, and you're using this same information to lump them together as if they are tackling the same problems. And then we do have the bit of from Rakesh, you had indicated issues are why you're not invited on the table to do this, the planning. And John had said you fear each other. So probably you need to tell us why the fear and where should the fear stop for you to come back together. So probably one of the issues you'll have to also get back to us, is there a fear within the business environment to come on this table to plan, Or the government side also has a fear for the business person that you might come with so many lists of shopping lists that they cannot meet. Over to you, Tony. Some of the questions that were asked. And to any of the team, in case you have some of the interjections, not to leave it to Tony alone, we have Dr. Swaibu here. You're part of the team. If you have some interjections, please, you're over to you as well. Tony, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I will start with the first question. Many of them are actually suggestions that can help us build more, strengthen the report in terms of the recommendations. So a direct question was on the ED of oxygas. The 11% who died is asking for the out of what? The denominator. Okay, yeah. These 11% are enterprises, and the denominator is those that we did not find, those that were not available for the interviews. And they were, if we weigh the data, they're around 6,800. So that's the denominator. I think I tried to mention it. Then the 425,000 jobs lost. Again, out of how many? Yeah. So these enterprises, under the analysis, the total employment before the onset of COVID-19, that is as of December 2019, was around 1.03 million. So the 425,000 is out of that. So we take the 1.03 million as the denominator. Yeah. Mr. Businje talked about what strategies are there to support digital platforms to create more jobs. I think the best fit for this question should have been Mukasa, but I think he has stepped out. Enterprise Uganda, and of course other government agencies. But from the perspective of the research, let me also mention one or two things. The strategies, actually, the last table that I flashed, I didn't talk about the details, is in the main report, is looking at sector level, what could be the specific interventions. In particular, focusing on resilience building. So when you come to adaptive ability, where technology needs to be, strongly leveraged, there is a action. There is a column of action where the policy consideration, one of the policy considerations is looking at, one, how do we strengthen, for example, B2B, which you are part of, the business to business, digital solutions, which I think is a critical area. And for manufacturing, for example, that cuts across. Although in the study, we look at manufacturing, primarily because they are involving distributors, for instance, to take their products to the consumers, okay? So B2B digital solutions is critical there. Then the other thing, the second one, which is also part of the policy considerations, is how do we strengthen or establish, actually, in case we do not have any initiative, how do we establish or strengthen interactions between digital platforms and the MSMEs? I think that's also something lacking, okay? Now you can hear Mr. Businje with the initiative of Merchandise Uganda. How many enterprises, for example, know about that? Jumia market vendors got to know them during COVID-19 when they came out, especially in the first lockdown, and enrolled, actually, women market vendors, okay, to participate in their digital business platform. So the interaction between these digital business solutions and the enterprises is a critical strategy from the research angle, which I think needs to be taken up. How do we build that, or how do we strengthen that? Yeah. The rest, I think, are comments which we can use to improve the report. Impact, maybe the last one, impact of the stimulus package on the different, I think, business dimensions or performance dimensions. This specific survey doesn't have that. As you saw the objectives, we only went to the extent of exploring the coverage of this MSME support intervention and what did they receive. And then on the other side, we looked at the preferred needs so that it can help responses in terms of aligning the need of the businesses to policy, okay? So that's what we have. But under the broader project, because this is a bigger research project, maybe Dr. Ibrahim will comment more on that. This survey is just part of the research, the bigger research project. There is a component that is looking at the appropriateness, of, or how appropriate the policy responses are, okay, in terms of addressing the issues of the MSMEs. So that is a whole component of the research project, which is not part of this survey. Thank you.
So
heterogeneity, heterogeneity. Yes, I agree with that. These enterprises are not homogeneous, especially if you look at it from the angle of spatial distribution or geographical, scope. But in terms of economic activities, because we try to deal with issues of heterogeneity from the angle of economic activities. So we grouped, based on the ISIC, which I mentioned, the International Standard Classification, Industrial Classification of Economic Activities, we grouped the enterprises according to the economic activities they undertake. So that helps partly to deal with the issue of heterogeneity, because as you saw, we have analysis disaggregated by sector, and we also have sector-specific, policy considerations. So I think we partly address that through that angle. But rural-urban, yeah, it has not come out strongly. Probably it's something we can look into. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Dear, you have to respond to, do we need to consider agriculture in this next survey? Oh, so what is the way forward on that?
Thank you very much. I'll respond to that particular question. When we were designing this project during the first lockdown, we had a long discussion on which sectors should be considered. The ones we did consider, that is agro-processing, stroke manufacturing, tourism or hospitality and education, were selected then based on the immediate impacts we saw resulting from closure of businesses. We also committed that we will do a panel. So the sectors were selected, the farms were selected. So going forward in the subsequent surveys, we are following the same farms and not introducing new sectors or enterprises. However, it is still an open question. There's still more work to be done regarding the impacts of COVID. So it's possible to look at this not from the survey side, because the survey side agreed on the sectors. It has also identified the farms, and now the objective is to follow these farms on an annual basis to find out what has changed as a result of the shock we did register some 2 or so years ago. So we are not introducing any new sectors at this stage. but nonetheless, there are opportunities to do research, not as part of this project, to look at how the pandemic has affected, for example, farmers. But also to note, as indicated earlier, we did do a rapid survey last year that focused on parts of agriculture, especially agricultural marketing. So there's been some work in this area, but for the survey, it's focused on 3 sectors, and it was designed to be part of a panel. Thank you.
Thank you. I think partly also to emphasize that agriculture partly it's a feed-in into the manufacturing sections, such as agro-processing. So we look at that chain of agriculture in terms of the supply, in a way that if these are maintained, then probably the ripple effects will be felt at an upper stage of the value chain than at the production phase itself. So I think that's to emphasize why I think the selection of these sectors were done the way they are. But we do have in terms of the production phase. So probably in his remarks, he'll throw more light on that. So we can have just one last round of input, then we go to the closing remarks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll come to you. Then the last one, definitely I'll come back to you. And the 5th one, okay, so we've seen there. Okay. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Because when we finish, okay. So we do have some bit of time since the minister is on his way to make sure he's here to do the closing in time. So we have the first interjection. Your name, please, and where you're coming from.
Hello. Yes. A colleague from Oxygas. The issue of fuel to get back to their feet might be impeded by that. The costs are going to vary. Like, we cannot increase our costs at will with 30 shillings every other day. So I hope that that's going to be looked out for. Then 7 workers. Where they are, I don't know. But they are probably doing something else. They're probably time. You may have sacked someone today, and they started something else. So that's an area you need to look out for. You never know. Probably right now. A stimulus package is not supposed to be a loan. I've not gotten that money. At least I tried and I gave up. The process alone, I spent more money trying to get that money. So it doesn't make sense at all. My proposal would be from this fund, if you really want to care about these small businesses.
Thank you for your submission.
Another one.
You have another one to
Yes.
interject?
Because I'm in the hustle, so I have to really bring it out clearly.
Okay.
Then the issue of digitization, a good idea. We support that. But remember, most SMEs rely on person to person. I'm going to buy from you because I know you. That personal touch is very important. People from, I think, India, people from Uganda, family is important. You must know someone personally before you buy, even before you get the UNBS mark. Most of our first sales are made from friends and family. So person to person remains very important. And it should be not be washed away because the digital age is moving, but we should also think about that sector of business. Then in your report, you mentioned that there were some enterprises who were not traceable. Now, we have district commercial officers. Do they actually know these enterprises in their areas? With a parish development model, because that means there's a parish leader at each section. That parish leader should be able to know the enterprises in that area. So how do you say I disappeared? My factory, maybe it was closed during lockdown because the second lockdown for me knocked me out. But I'm still breathing. But are you sure, can't the parish officers know these SMEs? Do they know who has registered today, who has collapsed tomorrow? Don't they have that contact? They probably have better information than you who has come from an institution, from Kampala, from wherever, on ground. You'll find the gate closed and you think he has gone. But if that officer at that lowest level understands the sector, he'll probably give you a better picture of what is happening.
Okay,
I think with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. The next submission. And we'll also hear from some of the persons we did survey during this the survey period to see if really we projected the true reality of what we found from them. Yes, please. Oh yeah, okay.
Thank you, Dr. Madina. I want to thank you so much for
the report and findings. My name is Patrick Kaboyo. I'm both in the private sector and the civil society, and also making a small contribution here. My concern is to take this beyond us. So the dissemination, I think, should target those actors in those small businesses. And if I'm not asking for so much, can we do a translation so that this information reaches those very actors to interpret it? Because the presenters, econometrics, and those figures need to be properly interpreted by those users so that they can ask the right questions, even to the minister who is about to come, without smiling at him and not asking the right questions. I thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and he's also part of the technical committee on this project. So we hope part of the dissemination component will put us to task in terms of the viability of where we need to go to make sure this is out there and well received and integrated for those people who this information really touches. So we have, you had your hand up. And also want to hear, oh yeah, I want to hear also from the ladies. I know I'm a lady, so I'm seeing my fellow ladies letting me down. But I see another one there, so I hope to see more hands up. Other than that, I know some of you, I'll mention your names. And then, and then you'll have to say something. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Hajat. About one or two issues. Make formalization cost-free. My name is Marion Mbabazi. I've owned a business before it died and no one came to resurrect me, and I'm still alive. I had to find an alternative. I used to own a restaurant chef at home. Thank you very much. Yes, can we make formalization free for MSCs? Because we've been talking about the informal sector for the last decades. We've not found a solution on how to get them formalized to be able to benefit from social security and other reforms. Then, from the discussion we had, I didn't hear anything in terms of the recommendations for the business law or commercial law. Is there anything wrong with our legislation around the business environment? Yes, is that an area that operate? Then, on the dead people, on the dead businesses, can we profile them and find out which are those businesses that were most affected, that died? When they die, it means more crime, it means drop out of school, it means many things for the households that close their businesses. Then, the PDM, could it be a catalyst for a revival for those businesses that died? When we're looking at the next research, government is going to invest in a lot of money. Can we look at it as the next option for ensuring that these businesses revive or resurrect or survive? Then, the issue of the 500 jobs. As a country, do we carry out annual job surveys? Do we learn from other countries when businesses are lost? What is done in East Africa? What is done in West Africa? What is done at the African Union level? What is done in the UK? We should learn from others. Then, lastly, what are the new sectors that we should look forward to in terms of creating jobs when we're in such a fora? EPRC should be saying, let us invest in mining, let us invest in sector ABCD to create jobs rather than lamenting. For example, we've seen our young people go to Dubai, to United Arab Emirates, to ride bicycles for goods, to take them to the households. Let us see how we can create more jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that submission. Doctor from NPA, I will still call you NPA, even in the private sector. So we have Doctor here, then you next. So, okay, next, then you're last, then we get some feedback from that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Madina. My name is Kenneth, and I work with Youth Livelihoods Development Company, a non-government organization that works to improve livelihoods of young people. From the report, we have seen that we have weak resilience among the small and medium businesses. So when, Mr. Mkasa was presenting, he said that 80% of the small and medium businesses are not able to pay their bills. And 80% of the small and medium businesses are not able to pay their bills. So when Mr. Mkasa was presenting, he said that 80% of the small and medium businesses are not able to pay their bills. And 80% of the small and medium businesses are not able to pay their bills. So when Mr. Mkasa was presenting, he said that as COVID-19 the cause of the problem, or it just pushed the businesses off the peak. And I think with the little experiences that I've had with working with young people in small businesses, they really need more of support in terms of mentorships. When they talked about the VHTs that we have in our villages that move around the villages, and somebody mentioned the local business mentors or committees, this is what we need to think about. How are we going to support these that are still surviving to continue surviving? We need to reach out to them through mentorships and talking to them to understand all these other things that we are talking about here. They won't be able to get the knowledge on how to, the information, the adaptive measures, if there is no one that is reaching out to them. We are going to go back in a situation when you're going back to do the research and you find more businesses are still collapsing because we really don't have someone on ground that is going to meet and talk to the who are doing business. So it is something I want us to think about, the local mentorships that we, mentors and having mentorships to these young people so that they can really understand and not fall again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I think if Ronald was here, I would have actually talked about that a bit more as a BDS Enterprise Uganda, but we still think as food for thought for taking forward. Yes, Doctor?
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Madina. My name is John Sekamati Sebuliba. I'm a consultant with National Planning Authority and National Population Council. I want to congratulate EPRC on this very, very exciting and informative study. I want to, I'm also excited about having heard from the people in the trenches, going around the room. These are the people who are actually at the firing, in the firing line. And I think you have, looking at your, the conceptual framework that this study used, I think you've identified a very important intermediate factor, intermediate variable of access to inputs / supplies. Now, a bit of frustration is that you have put this intermediate factor together with factors like closure, being closed or open, and yet I think it is an important explanatory variable. So if you can conceptually separate it so that it will improve the analytical framework if it stands alone as an intermediate variable. Which brings me to the next observation, that again, hearing from concerns around the room, the study, I think, needs a qualitative component. Now, people have talked about those businesses that didn't survive, those which died. What was their profile? And as I would also use the popular term now, the MP2B said, of course, many of these did not die, may not have died because of COVID. So we need to know what was they like what were they like before, and what did COVID contribute to their final demise. But also there is the important point of the positive deviants. Those who survived, what is it that they did correctly? So, and we need a qualitative aspect to bring that out. And finally, about this recovery package, I think EPRC has is in a vantage position where they can demystify the role of taxation in this recovery package. As you may have heard somebody from very, very high up in the government saying that you cannot reduce taxes now to support recovery because we need the revenue to do this and that. Can EPRC go an extra mile to simulate the role of taxation or within recovery? Because we are just looking at the money today, the revenue today, which may be probably 1 million shillings. But then we are eating or killing the 100 million shillings we would have got next week if we had helped these enterprises to, to survive this shock and then come out stronger. And you can only, demonstrate that through a simulation that can show the situation today, the relevant factors, and the situation tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. And lastly, to Rajesh, you had something to say. We keep it brief, because I would like to hear from the three persons that the institutions or the firms that we did actually interview, to give some of their voices to this discussion. Yes, Rajesh. For online audience, please, if you have any question, we can even unmute you to make your submissions live within this discussion. Please, you just have to raise your hand, and then we shall unmute you to make your submission.
Okay, once again, first of all, I think we should give a big round of applause for the research team who has put their time and effort to create this data. So please, big, huge round of applause. Of course, when someone do the hard work, people like us, we take out too many things. This is not there, that is not there. It's a common, human nature. So you must, praise them that what the work they have done. I agree with my colleague from the Gulu that, when you do the next time research is very important. Also, I know why this data may be not perfect, because the many companies, they don't register themselves. That's a fact, and that's the reason you don't get the right data. So I think from next time, I request all the business people who were here that must register their company, so at least the data is available. So whoever research company like you going for the survey, they should get the right feedback. Second things, I don't know how many people you know, but why I'm so interested in this event, because first of all, this event is very interactive. Many events you go and sleep. Many people I have seen, they're sleeping in the event, like this dodging. The good thing is very interactive. My name is Rajesh Kumar. Already I have introduced myself. Many of you have seen me last year from June to August in everyday newspaper and media. I am the person who is supplying the medical oxygen 24/7 to the whole Uganda, including a private and referral hospital. So I am the person, I think God has sent me on that time to save the people's life, whatever I could. So that's the reason I was very interested to know about this COVID, that what has happened. So thanks, whoever is still alive. So we must say thanks to God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, because now the minister has arrived, but we will have 3 interjections from Willie Lokoya, Bome Hotel. We'd like to hear your views on what we have discussed today. Mwesigwa Dennis from Shalom, and then also Elliot May from the Ramsona Safaris. So we did interview you. I would like to hear your voices on what we have discussed today as the minister comes in. So probably we can wait for him to sit, and then we have Willie. Are you around? Willie? Yes. And then Dennis? Great. And then Elliot. We shall keep it short, because we know ministers really do have lots of engagement. So you're welcome, Honorable Bahati, to this discussion. We do value your time and your presence here. For the audience online, our guest to close this dissemination has arrived, Honorable David Bahati, the Minister of State for Trade, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. So now, Honorable, we are now on the part of conclusion in terms of the discussions. We're going to be hearing from some of the 3 MSMEs that we did discuss, interview during the survey, to give us some of their inputs briefly before we go to the aspects of closing. Yes, now, Willie, over to you. Willie is from Bome Hotel, and I would like to hear your insights, at least in a minute, before we go to the next person. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, moderator. Honorable Minister, who has just entered with us here, for joining us.
Your microphone, put it a bit closer.
My name is Lokoya Willie Bosco. I worked in Boma Hotel, Kitgum, northern Uganda. I participated in the survey whereby one of the members from EPRC raised me in Kitgum and he interviewed me. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we have faced the challenges as the hotel. As the hotel, hospitality and leisure industry, we have faced mostly the challenges has been mentioned before the ministers has come.
Will, you can speak up because we have an online audience, so, and your voice is so low. I know COVID has hit you, but still, you had some bit of breakfast, and we need to hear you loud and to make sure we come in to support where necessary. So,
okay, thank you.
Yes.
We have been facing challenges in hotels. One, since they have put the first lockdown, we have faced the challenges of high cost of operation, which has been mentioned, I think, in by the first speaker. That one came as a result of the measures put in by the government.
I think, Will, you can come here, probably it's your microphone, and or you're shy, you know, but we need to hear you very well.
I was saying we face the challenges of high cost of operations. Since they have put the lockdown, most of our staffs, those one who has remained, we have to keep them within the premises of the hotel. So that one has made us to face high cost of operation when there's the revenue of the hotel has reduced. There are other things we have to buy also, like sanitizers, face masks, to control the COVID-19. Besides that, we have cut down we have cut down the salaries by 50% of the net pay. If you're getting like 600, you come back to 300. Then later, after the second lockdown, we have been taken to 75%, of which is too challenging for some of us. Right now, we have laid off even the staff. We had like 32 staff before the lockdown, but we remain like six of us. And on top of that, the 6 of us who are remaining, our salaries has been cut off by half. Those are the challenges we were facing in hotel. Low income. Boma Kitgum is at the extreme end of northern Uganda there, whereby we normally receive visitors, tourists from different parts of the world. Those one heading to Kidepo, they normally residents with us. But when they put the lockdown, we got cancellations of the bookings. Some of the bookings were cancelled. Others cancelled it for good. Others, they just updated. They pushed the date ahead while waiting for the reopening of the economy. So right now, we have tried our best to cope up with the COVID-19 pandemic by adjusting our policies and our rates. We also try our best to look good to our visitors or our guests by keeping the SOPs which are placed in by the government. I think, Madam, I can end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we saw some life back in you to realize that you did take some breakfast. We do, despite the challenges. You know, we are having some bit of, you know, when you have a minister in your midst, you know, they have several aspects they need to be somewhere to deliberate on or to deliver. So I'd like to give 1 minute to our next person, Mwesigwe, Dennis. Please, 1 minute. Other than that, we would not like for our guest of honor to be leaving an audience. Then also Elliot, please, if you can come by, and then we make these submissions a bit faster to make sure we close our next, go to the next part of the discussion.
Honorable Ministers, MP present, organizers of this function, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are fine. I'm also fine too. My name is Mwesigwe Dennis from Shalom Keben Primary School in Kakova Division, Mbarara City. Allow me to report on COVID effects and some solutions done. I will report on parents, pupils, teachers, and the school. During COVID-19, most parents and their families went to the village. They also lost job and business. This reduced their income, and they were just idle. After the first COVID lockdown, they came back from their village with only pupils in upper classes. After a few months, we went in the second COVID lockdown. Then after COVID-19 lockdown, they came back. Those who were renting, they had to change their place of residence. With no salaries or with no income. And some stayed in the villages. Solution. Other people came to occupy their houses, the same houses they were renting. These people came with some children, and later they brought those children to our schools. When we were closing, our school had 312 pupils. By the time of opening, we received only 200 pupils. And parents had no money. So the solution, we allowed the parents to pay in installments so that we can solve that problem, parents without money. We also allowed the parents, I have already said that one, to pay in installments. Then allow me to report on pupils. Pupils came back from COVID lockdown when they had grown in size with very bad behavior and very poor in academic. Again, there was an automatic promotion. This brought fear among children, among themselves. We solved this with constant counseling, and we had to revise with them the classes, the exercise from previous classes. Most teachers, I'm going to report on teachers now. Most teachers did not turn up from COVID lockdown. Some teachers went to other schools and others started their own businesses. By the time we opened the lockdown, we were lacking so many teachers. That one, by recruiting other teachers and again recruiting licensed teachers. And these problems remain, some of them remain unsolved until whereby we are seeing the increase slowly by slowly. After now, we are still lacking some number. We have not recovered the number we closed with. They are coming up, but when you try to ask some parents that they left the children in the villages because of fear to lock them again. With those comments, allow me to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bwana Mwesije, Dennis, for that kind of interjection. I think, Dr. Sevliva, I think you can say that's a kind of the qualitative information. I think you're saying to enforce some of the discussions we are having here today. And Elliot has left, so which gives us a bit of leeway. And I'll not allow Tony to respond to the discussion for now because of the time element. But there are some things which are food for thought, which came on when Willie talked about downsizing, incomes lost. Then I also, in my head, I'm thinking about the president said the GDP is so high that we're now in the middle income, but now people have no salaries. They are not spending. So I'm telling myself, where is this money coming from? So that's just what I was thinking about when he talked about these businesses closing. So we are now middle income, kind of, with this kind of resources, but there are no jobs. People are not spending. So that means there are certain few persons that are making this work. And then we need to think about the accountability component of it to ensure that probably we need to see where this money is going and not the businesses. To have then some bit to follow up. I think you talked about some bit of follow up. One element which is coming out of here is the bit of follow up for the subsistence surveys to see where those who closed, where are they? And the persons that actually lost jobs, probably through Willie, would like to ask, to inquire from you, those who were laid off, where are they now? Probably through you when we come back to you again. So then basically we need to see those kind of issues going forward in terms of, since this is a panel, I think those are some of the questions that we need to pick on board for follow-up purposes. Without further ado, which we shall continue interacting at a later point, I would like to invite Dr. Joshua Mutambi. He is the commissioner in charge of MSMEs and the right person to chair, who was chairing this project because it's on MSMEs.
Thank you, Dr. Medina. I think I am of State for Industry, Naibu Bahati. Development partners present. MDAs present. Distinguished participants, all protocol observed. Good afternoon. Just about 1 minute to afternoon. As I've been introduced, Joshua Mutambi from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, and specifically in charge of processing and marketing, the MSMEs Directorate. Thank you. I've been here, and as I was introduced, I chair the project steering committee of this project. And somebody from the ministry, and but I have a feeling that maybe we need to do more. Just the last statement my colleague talked about, that Uganda is in the middle income, but people have no money, companies are closing. The times I was in China in the 2000s, the economy of the Chinese People's Republic of China was in the hands of Shanghai city. You know, China by then was being divided into blocks: commercial business, administration, Beijing, and others. But China was already with a high GDP, but still a developing country. So when you move around, you would not easily tell the difference between China and Uganda. But it is still at that level. So I think it does not mean that when we are in the middle income, then everybody should be rich. That is something that we need to also investigate further. Yeah, so let me make my remarks, and I leave the rest for the minister. So I take this opportunity to welcome you all once again, those attending this dissemination physically and those that are with us online. I would also like to extend my thanks to EPRC team for putting off this study, and the project advisory committee for advising the execution of this project, which I lead. The micro, small, medium enterprises segment of our economy constitutes a significant source of jobs, employing about 8 to 10 million people. It provides income and economic empowerment for women, youth, and drives a higher level of women's economic participation. From what has gone on in the last 2 years, it is clear that the pandemic hit us seriously. Distortions have been created, and indeed some companies closed and others are closed. As the study has indicated, the 41%, or at least 425,000 jobs have been lost, specifically in the hospitality, agribusiness, and manufacturing sectors. Honorable Minister, this makes the study even more important to us as a country, but even more with the shocks that have come in from the Russian-Ukraine war. So as the situation was beginning to recover, then inflation is rising, economic squeeze that is making the business recovery even harder. The MSMEs should be the primary targets of government interventions, as the policy, as the study findings have indicated, because that is the sector that is the economic engine of this country. Some policy issues and recommendations have been made, and the reports have been prepared. We hope we shall take them and study them further. But of course, this does not only mean that it is a job of government only. I think the business community also needs to do more. We need to prepare our businesses, the entrepreneurs further, because as we all cry for the stimulus packages, I see a window of opportunity if the businesses learn how to work together. For example, your purchase is on a cash basis. But the challenge we face here, I think, is that we are not trustworthy to keep our agreements or our contracts running. So these are some of the business techniques that I think our people need to do. If somebody has produce in Soroti and they are needed in Mbale or Kampala, you just need to put them on a truck and they are delivered. Then payments can be made later. Otherwise, doing business on a cash basis all the time may be a challenge, and that's also we looked at issues like insurance and other areas. So we've got the reports, we shall study them. It is therefore, as government and the private sector take these study findings with utmost regard to understand how best the MSME situation can be improved amid these continued shocks. Honorable Minister, I don't want to take much time. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you and give your closing remarks. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and the leadership of EPCL. I'm told Salah is not doing well, but I can see Salah represented here by my brother. So the acting ED of EPCL and the staff of BCPL, and all of you who are interested in research. I can see Dr. Sekatawa there, my old friend, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here and to associate myself with the research done by ECPL, and to say that you are doing a good job, because all the time you keep informing us with empirical evidence. So I want to request everybody to really clap for them. EPCL has, in this research of the impact of COVID on socio-economic space, and especially on small and medium enterprises, revealed what all of us suspected that was going to happen. Loss of jobs, the resilience of small and medium enterprises to withstand the shocks, and also the response by government and how they are benefiting the small and medium enterprises. So the research actually is confirming what many of us suspected that would happen. And we are glad that we are pointing to the policy options that we have as government to be able to respond and help the small and medium enterprises. And I would want not really to spend a lot of time, so I just came to thank you, and also to outline and emphasize what government is trying to do to respond to some of the issues that we have found in your research. The first one is government delaying to clear small and medium enterprises through domestic areas. Last financial year, we had, I think, budgeted for 500 billion Uganda shillings to clear domestic areas. This year, we put over 350 billion to clear small domestic areas for next financial year. And out of a bill of 1 trillion, over $1 trillion, we want to see as government, see that we continue reducing that domestic areas until, because the bigger portion of it is actually in the judiciary, compensations and court cases. But on the side of the people who have supplied government, I think we are moving progressively. I think in the next 3 years, I would be able to reduce the domestic areas in reasonably to a level that can be managed. The second is the money that we have invested to support small and medium enterprises and its access. So we did put 200 billion in different banks that we can support small, because I think the capping is at 100 million per institution. So those are small enterprises that we thought that this COVID hit them so hard that they need support from government. But I can see in the report raised that access to this money has been a problem. And we are working with different financial institutions to ensure that first and foremost, small and medium enterprises are aware that this resource is there to help them. Secondly, that we simplify the procedures to access this money. And where there are no financial institutions in different areas, we find routes on how we can support them, either through circles and the rest. And therefore, on a lower level, government had put in place programs that can benefit small and medium enterprises to some stage. Even those who can access money through Emyoga invested 483 billion in UDB. support those who are involved, especially in manufacturing agro processing. And now we have, I don't know whether you cross-checked that, we have actually and have the procedure laid to you. You apply for it and you get resources up to 1 billion, even more. I know some institutions that are accessing this. So we want to encourage small and medium enterprises to access these resources that were put in place. Do not fear to go to these banks, because the money that we have allocated is for you and to help you grow. We would be moving to support the industrialization agenda by putting up 5 industrial parks in the next financial year. And in each industrial park, we are allocating land for small and medium enterprises. We will have fully furnished industrial parks, but among the people that we are supporting industrial park are those small and medium enterprises involved in manufacturing that can access land. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to access if it was on their own. So that's what government is trying to do to help small and medium enterprises, because we know that the majority, the bulk of our labor force, the jobs are actually created through small and medium enterprises. Even in the American economy or elsewhere, 70% of the jobs created are actually through small and medium enterprises. It is important that we have small and medium enterprises making millions of turnover than having a few making billions, because we'll employ more people in small and medium enterprises. We want also to encourage small and medium enterprises to start thinking about diversification of their businesses. Because if you don't have the capacity to diversify, or you are not diversified, when a shock comes, you can easily be hit and be hit hard. And that's what happened with if you have been working in a salon and maybe there's a problem of COVID, you need to think about on what else can be done so that you continue to survive. So there are issues of training, issues of skilling, information sharing, and I think that is what EPC is trying to tell us in their research. I hope that in our policy options, you have been able to identify those areas that the small and medium enterprises can actually focus on in case of any other shock, that you are able to change and diversify and be able to survive. What's the issue of survival? So I really came to thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing in research, because knowledge is power. Making decisions based on empirical evidence is very, very, very important. And also to encourage small and medium enterprises of what government is doing to support you, and also to tell you that you need also to diversify, build your capacity, take advantage of government programs, and also the knowledge available. Because the person who was doing business in the 1960s is not resourced like a person now. Because now we have internet, we have a lot of information that we can use to build our companies and to build our corporates. So I'm really happy that I'm here to be part of this, and thank you for the discussions you have had. And my job of coming here, if I wasn't a politician to speak so much, it was just to say I hereby now close this workshop. That was the point. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
I think a big round of applause to our Honorable. He has given us words of hope. I think we had started off with so much gloom, and has given us where we need to go to look for these resources. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to UDB and demand. We don't need financial statements, as you had, and we need this kind of liquidity to boost us up. Thank you very much, Honorable, for these words of encouragement, hope, and where we need to look for resources to boost our MSMEs going forward. Without further ado, and one of the things, Honorable, they said here today was we need to see how best we can look for also the parish I think, development committees for businesses, that's akin to VHTs, the village health teams, that can support businesses at the parish level, the same way the village health teams are doing to support in terms of taking forward government programs like malaria, uptake of mosquito nets. Probably we need also parish development business teams, a business committee at the parish level to do this kind of support for the PDM to go forward in a very good way going ahead. So without further ado, I would like to announce just housekeeping rules. We do have something for those who have attended. And kwaherini. Thank you for everyone, for those online, for having participated. We thank our IT persons, the hotel, and for the wonderful, even the wonderful audience for your very, very active participation. And for the persons who have traveled all the way from Kitugu, Mugulu, from Mbale, whichever it may be from your capacities to be here today, we do thank you very much. Asanteni sana, kwaherini. And we hope we meet again for the next survey when we are disseminating it going forward. We can soon continue engaging for the questions that we had, or probably even Tony, if you want to, should we get some responses or we go? But we can, yeah? We still have, since he closed it, we don't want to be found here again discussing, you know. So Tony, let's let it be. We shall respond it online to make sure that the minister does not get us out of order, that he closed the meeting. Again, we continue discussing. So with that, thank you everyone for your active participation, and those online, you can leave at free will, and a big hand clap to everyone else, and we hope we meet again. You switched off already, it's okay.
I remember we came here. Madina, do you still want to make an announcement?
So again, as I'd said, if in case it was not clear, where you see Dennis is somewhere seated. You see the hand up. You can please visit Dennis. In case he makes you happy, it's okay. If he makes you sad, it's also okay. So, that